Hello and welcome to the Art Market Podcasts. Today we're here with Tristram Thirkell. For the listeners out there, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became to be an artist?
I initially trained in furniture design and realisation down in London. I have become a builder and I have married a fantastic artist herself. And I've always just sort of done creative bits and pieces the whole time, really. Kicked off with furniture and I've now swung around to metalwork. And I was, courtesy of Brendan, doing lots of stuff in ceramic as well.
So how would you describe your process? And you know, because you make quite big pieces. So how do you come up with the ideas for things?
Well, you see the $64,000 question there. I don't really, honestly, I couldn't tell you. The creative process, complete mystery. It might be that I just catch something out the corner of my eye, or I might make a mistake with one piece of work that leads me to something else. And very often when you start the piece, without sounding too sort of kind of out there in the skies, it kind of starts to tell you what it wants you to do to it, in a way. So you end up just sort of bringing the piece together. Does that sort of explain it at all?
Yeah. So would you say that you work with kinetic energy then? You're quite connected with what you're working with, and then it comes from discovery?
I think, I'd say more or less. I mean, I think it's very rare to start out with something and then end up with that exact thing by the end. I think you go down, very subconsciously as well. I think you go down lots of different avenues. And what you might finally end up with is a far more condensed version of what you initially started out with, or the other way. It might be that it's sort of grown into a much bigger piece, or as often happens, into different pieces. You begin to sort of elaborate on particular aspects of what you're working on, and it just takes you down lots of different roads.
So are you a collector then? Do you kind of go for a nice little walk and then suddenly see something and go, right, I really need that, and you need to kind of then take that back home again before you start your walk again? Do you see things all the time that you just kind of collect off roadsides?
Well, probably not literally like that. I mean, I've got lots of. I am a bit of a sort of, in many respects, I'm quite a junk merchant.
Yes.
But I suppose the beauty of that is that you're already given the shape. You're given, actually processing that shape yourself, like even making a cylinder yourself, is actually quite, unless you have a fairly good setup, it's quite a difficult thing. So when you're naturally presented with that, that's a really good place to start. And then to use that, kind of kickstart the whole operation. Kind of big recycled pieces that I've then kind of made out of what I call kind of virgin material. So I've actually made it out of metal that I've gone and bought, sort of thing. And there seems to be, particularly in the public side, there seems to be a bit of a difference between something that's reclaimed or recycled and something that's made from new. And that's something that I'm just sort of coming to terms with at the moment.
My favourite piece of yours is the bank manager.
Really? Right. Okay. Yeah. Art will get you through times of no money better than money will get you through times of no art.
I love that. No, I really like it. I'm really intrigued how that started and formed and developed.
Well, that's a guy's old trampoline that he was throwing out. I was doing some building work next door, and I just got chatting to him one day, and I kind of kept bumping into him. And he said, "Listen, I've got all this stuff up here. Why don't you come and have a root through?" He literally had a skip full of rubbish, and I rooted through it, and I just found that frame, and then the hat's actually some old computer panels that are just sort of trimmed down. It's all fairly kind of elementary, and then I sort of riveted stuff together, and so it essentially all came from a trampoline, and I really like working in that respect. It's kind of like you've got a brief, but you don't know what it is yet. That sort of artist, it's actually quite terrifying. A blank piece of paper is actually quite a terrifying thing.
Yeah.
You can essentially do anything you want. It's surprising at how difficult it is to actually get that traction going with it. So starting off with something like that and kicking up with that that's a really fun way of working, I think.
That's what I like about your work. It is fun and it's different as well. I've not seen anything like your work anywhere. and it does lend itself for big open spaces, and it's very playful and tactile. You want to just touch it and feel it. It's not like, oh, I can't touch that. No. You kind of get involved. It's quite interactive. Is that important in your work, would you say?
Fundamentally speaking, I think sculptures, when you see something that's quite organic and, you want to, I think it's a very natural sort of feeling to have that you want to touch it. And I think that's quite an important part of it. Not because touching it necessarily you realise the material, but I think just that really basic ancient way of interacting is quite important. I think outside is a fabulous way to work because obviously you're not sort of conditioned by, having to hang it on a wall or something like that. The only problem with working outside is you can get so big that when you realise that you have to transport it, that's a totally different issue. So you can kind of get quite carried away with it. Yeah, and in regards to having a sort of the whole thing having a sense of humour, I think absolutely, and I think it comes through in different pieces. Some of my pieces are obviously maybe a bit more earnest than other ones, but I think it's got to have a certain an entry level point, I think, of humour to it.
Yeah.
And I think particularly with the carving men that I do, the small, the tiny little miniatures made out of the old, the champagne corks and stuff. I mean, I think that's, they're kind of like, well, I don't call them mini-me's, but they're just lots of little sort of impish flying things that it just makes you smile, sort of thing. And I think that's kind of quite valuable in its own way.
Oh, definitely. I think the carving men would really lend itself to animation. Be really, I can see that. Definitely, storyboarding it, have like a little animation of the carver men and their little adventures.
And that's ultimately where I'd really like to take it.
So what's your favourite piece of work that you've done?
You see, it's tricky. I mean, I think I'd probably say my big bull. That really opened up, for me personally, that just opened up a different way of working. And I did it at the York Country Park, and it was really good fun. And the people around the course were excellent. It was just a really good vibe, and that's sort of what came out of it. In fact, a lot of those initial pieces started at the Yorkshire Country Park. But I suppose, in a funny sort of way, the one that was most fun to make would be something like the Bank Manager, because I really don't know. I take it out, and I don't initially see what's going to happen with it, and it's just a pile of metal, and it's just like you get your juices flowing, and that kind of period where time just becomes very elastic and you find it 6 hours have passed by and you haven't noticed. That was probably one of the most fun sort of things to actually make. But the piece I'm most happy with is probably the Big Bull. And
where is that Big Bull now? Are we going to be seeing it at the art market?
Quite possibly.
Ooh.
Quite possibly, actually. Yeah. It has been for sale once. It was at the art market maybe about a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's now in pride of place back at home. And I think it's probably one of those places. It'll be one of those pieces that I'd probably display and probably not sell.
Yeah.
I'm kind of not in that stage with it. It's sort of become quite iconic to me, and I'm not quite ready to let it go. So.
But if the price is right.
Well, I suppose initially, and I think that's definitely something as getting more and more involved in the art world, it's definitely something that's occurring to me more and more. Is that I think because a lot of the times that I've been making creative stuff, throughout from way back when, it was never really, none of it was really ever for sale. It was just more something that I had to do that I sort of felt like I wanted and I needed to do. So I've done it, and now blending that into money and stuff is definitely another sort of journey, and kind of and being able to let pieces go and all the rest of it. It's all part of the makeup, I think, of being an artist.
So what inspires you?
If you took me down to a junkyard, I'd probably think that I'd died and gone to heaven. But it might be, today I've been making something using some tinfoil, and this tinfoil which is this offcut which is lying on the floor, and it looked like a really abstract version of the lady you get on the front of Rolls Royces, the one with the wings. It looked like a really sort of a cross between that and the kind of the World Cup itself, the World Cup. It's kind of like this weird, and it was really beautiful. It was just really, really simple. And that was just a complete accident. I just caught it out of the corner of my eye, and I look at it and you just kind of admire that accident and you sort of carry on. But I'm sure in the deep recesses of my brain, I'm already sort of conjuring up a way of using that sort of thing. Obviously, nature's really important. Going for strolls and just sort of getting out and about, and it's just been the most beautiful spring with the flowers and everything. It's absolutely gorgeous. Architecture is really important. A lot of industrial engineering I find incredible.
So what kind of products will you be selling at the art market this weekend?
I've been working on some more abstracts, which is when I work with new materials, so sort of unfound, if you like. I've got a samurai. I have another smaller bull, smaller than the large one I had. And I have a whole contingent of carver men loyally supporting me. And I've got, what else do I have? I have a small dog, which I've done. I tend to end up doing more animal forms. I think that's probably no accident. It's quite a good place to sort of start from, the carver man. And I've been working on a big carver man, and I've got cubist sheep, much smaller in scale than I've been working in the past. They're kind of more maquette style, I suppose. They're polished models of what I might in future make much bigger.
You've deliberately done smaller pieces.
I've definitely gone much smaller. Yeah, I think it's for lots of different reasons. I think it allows me to explore more kind of angles because it's not in itself. I'm not ending up with a big finished product. All of them are finished, but there's more of a scope to take it in different directions because I can make more than one model.
What would be your perfect exhibition?
I think the Yorkshire Sculpture Park. If I ever had an exhibition at the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, the Lord could probably take me then and there. I think that's kind of definitely. But really, ultimately, I suppose the big kahuna burger of exhibitions would have to be out in New York.
Yes.
I've got a brother that lives out there, and I saw this amazing place. And I just kind of think, if I could ever make it there, and this might be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, if I ever made it there, then that would be like a massive sort of life achievement thing.
What's the space called?
Well, it's actually, because it's in Manhattan, but because it's obviously a port and stuff, it's got lots of these old piers, that sort of come out from the land and obviously stick out into the Hudson? And there's just this one, there's Pier 13, and it's just this very sort of big, kind of old-looking pier, and it's not covered or anything, and I just want to have like a floodlit exhibition on Pier 13 and just blow everything out of the water, basically.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah,
So
I'm so going there, Fiona.
almost like street art, kind of just out on the pier and just have it there.
Except, I'd expect there to be hundreds of bottles of champagne popping and all that sort of stuff. And the glitterati of New York sort of, flouncing around. And the work can be big as well, and I could even have some of it out in the water. It's sort of incredible, and just have a serious evening of spectacle and flamboyance, probably.
It can happen. You've put it out there now.
I hope so. It would be such fun.
I'm booking my ticket now.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm coming out there. But in the meantime, if the Yorkshire Sculpture Park are listening, then definitely the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, because I think that's an amazing venue for you.
Obviously that would be absolutely immense.
Where can we follow you and your work and everything? Tell us where we can find you.
On the Art Market directory, so you can go to the www.artmarkets.co.uk, and there's an artist directory there. I also set me up a blog, so I'm Tristram Thirkell, the blagger blogger, blogspot.co.uk, so you can find me there. Obviously, you can hit me at the Art Markets, and I've currently got a Carverman website, in the very sort of early stages of being built. So carverman.co.uk, hopefully in the next sort of few months will be online as well.
Brilliant. I really love that. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to me, and look forward to seeing you at the Art Market this weekend. Can't wait to see you at the Yorkshire Sculpture Park very soon.
Lovely talking to you, Fiona.
If you would like to be part of the Art Market directory and know more about the Art Markets, go to www.artmarkets.co.uk. Thank you for listening.